Welcome to Bible Heroes. Today we're exploring the prophets, including Isaiah. Isaiah was an ordinary Bible hero. One of the books of the Bible was even named after him. He was an Old Testament prophet who had visions of the future and had God-given knowledge and truth to share. Of all the Old Testament prophets, he was the one with the most prophecies and predictions about Jesus. Isaiah knew that God would come to earth in human form. God gave Isaiah the ability to know that Jesus would have a miraculous birth, that Jesus would bring good news, that Jesus would sacrifice himself for us, and that Jesus wouldn't stay dead. He knew these things would happen over 200 years before they did. Wowza. There were lots of other prophets too who shared God's messages for the people. Sometimes their messages were warnings about God's judgment when all the people were doing wrong, and sometimes the messages were good news. All of the prophets were ordinary people chosen by God to hear from him and share what God wanted to be made known. They were obedient, they did what God wanted, and they kept listening to God even when they weren't liked by the people. Just like the prophets, we can also be the kind of people who choose to do the right thing too. Each of us is chosen too by God. Since Jesus' death, there is no barrier between God and people anymore. And instead of some chosen people sharing God's messages some of the time, like the prophets did, we can all hear from God now. How amazing is that? It's not often a voice we hear booming or even whispering to us, but we can hear from God in other ways. Sometimes, hearing from God is trusting our instincts and doing the right thing. Sometimes we might pray about something that we've been upset or worried about, and hearing from God might be feeling better or feeling hopeful. Sometimes God might remind us of something good about himself. Sometimes, like the prophets, God might put truth and hope into our hearts and minds. Sometimes God might use us to bring hope and truth to other people by being kind or saying positive things, or giving his messages. For God to speak to us, we have to listen, we have to make time to pray, and be open to God using us to change the world in positive ways. God does want to use us, and that's really amazing. How will you make the time to listen? There's a really cool video that can help us understand more about the prophets. Why don't you check it out? It will come up here.